So we're just going to come up and have a general conversation. So I encourage you to ask questions. We're not really have a big script that we're going to go by. It's more of a sort of open conversation. So feel free to prepare some questions. So I'm Ryan Gallagher. I'm the CEO and founder of iovox. So we are a communications analytics platform that work with marketplaces all over the world. We work with property, automotive, healthcare, and lots of other businesses from insurance and everything else. And we basically take these communications, and at the moment we're sitting on a treasure trove of data and information, which we're at the forefront of being able to use this for some of the stuff we've been talking about today. And because of the markets we operate in, every one of those regions deals with data privacy differently, so we have to be extremely careful. But we have some very exciting stuff that we're doing at the moment around the analytics space. And I'm here with one of our customers, Cars.com, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Very nice to meet everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Anoop Tiwari. I'm the Vice President for Customer Analytics and Product Partnership at Cars. I've been with Cars for about 19 years of the 25 years we've been around. This is our 25th anniversary this year. And I've had the sort of privilege of watching very closely a transition of a pure play marketplace into becoming a platform. So we started 25 years ago with a transition from newspaper classified into digital. And over years, we've added businesses that provide reputation management solutions from a company that we bought called Dealer Rater. We have AccuTrade, which allows us to provide vehicle acquisition services. We have Credit IQ that does instant financing. We have Dealer Inspire that runs about 6,000 websites. So we're providing end-to-end retail platform that helps our retail partners succeed. Me personally, I've done strategy and partnership and corp dev for about 15 years. And the past few years, I was the revenue org, and only recently, I've moved to a product organization to focus more on improving value demonstration and how we partner with different companies across the ecosystem.
Cool. And you've actually just been promoted, so it proves that they like you.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that.
Keep me around.
Yeah. So we've been working together for a little while now, and I think one of the exciting things is the breadth of things that you guys do, and that the actual ability for us, because we obviously have all of this data, and we are able to apply that in different ways depending on the customer that we work with, but obviously having access to all of the different ways that you guys can address the market is exciting for us as well as for you guys. But what do you think is coming next? So what do you think's happening in the emerging industry?
Right. And I mean, as a clarification, obviously, we have the audience all across the globe and different verticals. We are very narrow in that sense. We are only automotive and only in US, a little bit in Canada. So our expertise goes deep, not wide. And I was joking the other way with somebody that almost about 22 years ago, our sales reps were actually carrying AOL diskettes and installing it on dealers' computer to give them an email account. So they can actually receive an email lead from our site. And those are the days you're trying to prove the value of internet as a channel. And today, the same sales team goes in and they try to educate the dealers about why they should migrate to GA4 or how to use OBD scanner to do a trade-in valuation. So we're very connected to helping our retail partners succeed. And the way we can make them successful is actually obsessively focus on the car shoppers. If you do a good job of helping our car shoppers make the right decision and go through a process of research, search, selection, finding the right dealer partner, when they do interact with our dealers, the transaction will happen, sales will happen, and that's when everybody wins. That's the end goal. In terms of what's happening in the future, for us, it's been a steady path towards becoming more of a platform. So when you think of us, don't think Amazon, think Shopify. So we're enabling platform, we're providing solutions that are tightly connected and make our retail partners that much more efficient and help them succeed. So we talk internally about arming the rebels, right? So we work with 19,000 dealers, and in the US, as most of you might know, it's an extremely fragmented market. Even the largest player command a small %. So if you want to change the whole category's shopping experience, You have to find a way to work with all the retail partners, not a solution with a handful of players. And it's a varying range of sophistication. Some problems have persisted, like 15 years ago, when we would look at what portion of your leads are not responded, that number, unfortunately, does not look that much different today.
Yeah.
Right? And there are things that we can do to make it much better.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's one thing to generate leads, it's another to make the person actually respond to them. It's very difficult.
Right? It is.
And it seems like every time something new comes on the market, it's going to change everything. But everything's been changing for so long now that people forget how much it changed with the advent of the mobile phone, which was going to just change everything. And of course it has, but these things keep on happening. So being in the industry for so long, you'll have seen these
It's really
trends.
fascinating. I was looking at the slides earlier about the disruptors or attempt to disrupt classified category and how the largest players have survived for quite some time. And my simplistic mind says that businesses survive when they make money, right? I mean, so we did about $652 million last year with 29% EBITDA. If we consistently, profitably grow our business, even if it's not dramatic growth, but a meaningful amount of consistent profit, then I think you will have sufficient to invest in growth and in trying out new things.
Well, that's key, right? It's evolving with the market. These
And,
companies
yes.
who don't evolve are going to die for sure. But when you're that big and you're actually agile, you can be faster to the new things than the other
And I think it
people
all
are.
goes back to the mindset. We have a lot of firsts to our credit. Currently, we are the largest in terms of unique shoppers. We have the most downloaded app. It's the most sort of well-known brand. We have the least % of acquired audiences. Most of it comes from direct and organic. The key here is to keep experimenting and looking for new horizons when things are going well, not just when it's sort of too late. We started with, and this is no longer needed, but in the early days of mobile, there needed to be a separate mobile website compared to your desktop site. Eventually, it all became responsive, but we were the first ones to come up with that. We were experimenting with rating a dealer where it was tabooed. I mean, of course, it was common for Amazon to have it, but there was concern that dealers would completely revolt. And we spent more than a year simply training our retailers why that's a good thing for them. And eventually, we launched it. We had a tiny number of dealers who did cancel, but they all came back. And currently, we have Dealer Rater in our platform, which has upwards of 10 million reviews written by real consumers about their experience at the dealership. So when I was seeing John's presentation about the value of data, that's the kind of data that we can build really, really dramatically better solutions on.
Yeah, there's so much. The nice thing about data now, there's so much evolution in the tools to pull information out of the data. So we ourselves have, I don't know, millions of calls every day going back and forth, and we actually have text messaging, email, and we're able to pull all that in and get smarter and smarter. But even 3 years ago, it wasn't that easy. You know, you're delving into that big pile of data, and it's not really enough to have the data. You have to surface the important stuff to say, this is what you need to look at now, not here's 10 million records and enjoy reading through them, you know?
Totally. I think that's where the power has dramatically improved on capabilities of tools that are available and more readily available. You don't need to invest in multi-year projects to get to a place where it becomes usable. You can go off running much faster as long as you have the back-end data sets. But I mean, we were one of the first ones to actually put trackable phone number on, at that time, internet classified listings to show the value of internet listing in generating lead activity. And the challenge here is twofold. On one side, you want to generate the phone calls, that's a given, but then the phone calls have to land at the right place. So it has to go into the CRM, and we really appreciate the partnership there, where we can actually make it easily available at the right fields that a dealer is going to look at when they're judging who sent me how many leads. Otherwise, they all become their own leads, even though they may have come from a third-party site. The next level, of course, is you go a little more clinical on those leads, like how long the calls lasted and how many of them were dropped off too soon, because we uncover situations where it may be going to a receptionist and the call whisper says, receive the call from cars.com,
Yeah.
the receptionist thinks, oh, it's a call for cars.com, not for the dealership, and they put hang it. So those kinds of things happen, even like maybe not as much now, but it used to happen fairly regularly. And then the next level, of course, is the transcription
Yeah.
and all the analytics and insights that we can power. Um, right now, what we're doing is we survey our consumers when they submit an email lead to a dealer, and we ask them whether the dealer got back to them, how was the experience. And that's one way for us to essentially provide the feedback loop to our sellers and help them improve their operations. We could do something similar for phone calls also as we bring in more transcription analytics on top of it.
That's interesting as well, because you have the big data view where you might say, I want to know what happened, how many test drives were booked on this million calls. But then you have the individual level where, what did the caller call for? When the person answered the phone, did they mention the brand?
Right.
Did they end up booking it? Did they ask if they need finance? All of these sorts of questions. So there's such a depth to be had in the information. And again, it comes back to the getting that data out,
That's right.
extracting it and putting it to the right person. So
That's exactly right. And in our category, in US, in the automotive category for the car dealers, there is a cottage industry of consultants who actually help the dealers improve their BDC processes. And many of them will do this. They'll have like a human listen to calls and
Yeah.
advocate that okay, you should be pitching like this, or you have a checklist of things that you must cover. And I think all those things we can scale at a dramatic level without our retailer partners have to bear all the cost. And we can bring all the insights from thousands of dealers, so we elevate the whole industry and help everyone become better.
yeah, we have some customers who would have 8 people to listen to 1% of
Yeah.
calls, and now those 8 people can instead look at the data that comes out
Right.
and have an alert to say you have to listen to this call because
Right.
of whatever happened during that call. So they can use the same resources but for a higher level task. Which
Exactly.
is
Exactly right.
pretty cool.
Exactly right.
And what sort of things do you look for in the data? I mean, what is it that's important to you in terms of, obviously you guys are dealing with at the real sales face of the dealership there as well, and what sort of issues do you see that can be addressed by data that's coming your way?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, obviously data is foundational, pretty much like our decision-making process and how we live and breathe our product experiences and how we communicate that to our end customers and what's working, what's not. It's all powered by data, obviously. We have a sophisticated data science function within our organization, part of our data platform team. And there are dozens of models available today that are actually powering the search experience. So which listings to show first for a consumer who has done XYZ thing. We're trying to become better and better and more personalized there. So improving site experience itself based on the interaction data, so which listings and which consumers are interacting and engaging with what parts of the site, and also explicit data, so a whole host of surveys and feedback that happen all the time that goes back into improving the site. Then the other side of this is you could consider them more of a trade side or B2B side of improving the product or the software. So as an example, we have a platform called AccuTrade, which helps dealers decide how to take trade-in or parts exchange for a particular car. And historically, that process has been driven by guidebooks. And typically, the guidebooks are looking at auction values, what has happened in the past. And the current platform that we have aims to look ahead and look at the retail interactions, look at the demand data, and set the price, which is way more accurate than what it used to be, to the extent that we can put an instant offer on a vehicle based on what they have provided, the information the consumer has provided. Those kinds of experiences are powered truly by data sets. And it makes a big difference. So if you think about how a vehicle is appraised, in the traditional model, a consumer drives in the car at a dealership, there is a used car manager who's walking around and making the best guess on and they have a lot of experience, I'm not denying that, but certainly because the breadth of the kinds of cars that a dealer has to see these days, it's extremely difficult to do all that with just one person's experience and not rely on really powerful data sets and tools that are available easily. So now we have a solution where there's an app and there's an OBD port tool that you can attach to a car. It updates the valuation. It's transparent on the app. you can turn around and show to the consumer that here are the reasons why we've deducted the price. And you can arrive at a transaction much faster. Many dealers are using that for their service drive. So when a consumer is coming in for repair, we are putting a number on the vehicle, and they're acquiring way more cars than they used to from the past. So those kinds of direct applications of data is really powerful.
Yeah, we have obviously a lot of marketplaces, and all those marketplaces know their data, and we're in a great position where we can tell them, is your conversion rate good, based on your traffic? What about further down the tree are you getting, the viewings other people are getting? So we have benchmark data across over 50 countries now, so we have a lot of this information. You probably have the same situation where you'll have a dealer who thinks they know their bit, but they don't know what's happening in the wider industry.
Right.
So being able to go to them and give them that information must be very...
No, you're right. So I think for calls specifically, we certainly look at conversion on our site by different marketing channels and what performs, what doesn't. And we have, of course, decades of data or benchmarks available for different categories. And then when we provide data to our dealers, we provide them a sense for what should they be comparing against. So if we're presenting a metric, how does it compare with other local as a panel, right? So they can decide if it's that good or where they fall in that metric. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, the data in itself is kind of useless unless you know what good looks like, right?
You can make it actionable, yeah, exactly right.
We saw that during COVID. When COVID hit, we had obviously the impact on different countries was different, and the recovery post-COVID as well. We could see certain countries were coming back faster. And we had a couple of our partners who used to measure everything based on web traffic. We were talking about this earlier. And then, of course, web traffic went through the roof because everybody was sitting at home.
Yeah.
But that did not entirely reflect their business. It reflected bored people. So they started measuring on phone calls and leads rather than web traffic, because if somebody's going to phone up, they don't usually want to call a car dealer or a real estate agent for fun. They usually have an ulterior motive.
There, No, the inbound calls are certainly clearly the most valuable lead. And the whole COVID scenario, we obviously were directly impacted too. Yeah. And we provide walk-in data also to our dealers. So using the data from the mobile app that the consumers are opted in, and we have a physical map for each dealer location, so we can tell when somebody's spending more than X minutes at a particular lot. So we show them not only how many calls you generated, how many emails you got, but how many people we sent to your lot, right? And of course, when COVID hit, all that number dropped. Yeah. And the dealers in the US are quite enterprising and fairly sophisticated. It's a large category, they're a sophisticated business, and they find a way out. Like many of them actually came up with solutions where they were completing almost all of the transaction processes through phone and exchange of information with the consumer through email. And they're driving the car at the dealer, the consumer's driveway actually. Yeah. And all they have to do is sign a paper and you can take possession of the car. Our CEO actually bought a car during COVID period in that same format. So that's one change that has happened in the car category I've been observing for past 2 decades. Generally, the reputation of dealers is not very good, but it has dramatically changed. Like there are still bad apples, no doubt, but there are far more that are trying to deliver a much better customer experience, and it's improving.
It's also been brought into the light now, right? There's so much information that if you do something bad, everybody knows about it. So people have to behave. That's in any industry these days.
Exactly. And I think that's where the data that we get from our shoppers as direct feedback on their experience with the dealers becomes a really powerful asset in helping other shoppers decide who they want to work with. And of course, to the dealers also in improving their processes. So.
It's definitely a changing world. We've got questions already. Do you want to move to questions?
Up to you.
Yeah, let's jump to questions, okay. Do you want to go for the first one? It's not for me.
The previous presenter, it's on screen, okay. So the question is about moving to a free-form search. So, of course, these are my personal opinions, not the marketplace product owner, and I'll at least share thoughts on what I've seen in the past and what has happened. I think free-form search is low friction, it's easy, and Google has trained us over years. It took a long time. It's not easy, right? So it took a long time to almost set an expectation that you'll get the right result right away, right? Like in the first 3 or 4, you'll get what you're looking for magically. In car shopping, though, one alternate viewpoint could be that some cases, consumers, especially when they're searching for used cars or when they're upper stage in their shopping journey, when they're contemplating multiple kinds of cars, they're actually not interested in getting the results very quickly. They are in the exploration phase. So they want to discover. And what we observed is that they do research by looking at listings, and that sort of opens up thread for what other things they want to consider. They enjoy the browsing process also.
Photos, right, as well. It's like
Yeah,
real
the
estate's the
photos make
same.
the
People are
difference.
like, oh, I just want to look at these 500 pictures.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
almost like a form of entertainment with like a side purpose of shopping and search behavior. But I think some of this will depend on how the category shifts, and we, of course, test this all the time. One place where things have dramatically changed in the recent months is the ability to understand the intent, which was very restricted to companies like Google. It would very soon be available to pretty much everybody. So you can almost, instead of a bar, open up a paragraph box, let people essentially spill the guts and describe everything
Yeah.
they want, and you can convert that into a structured query and still present good results, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the opportunity that should happen much more quicker. The other part I'm watching is, so with Bing, of course, there is like the whole Bing ChatGPT and Google Bard and the debates around it. But Bing is trying very hard to get people to use chat instead of the search bar. So the question then becomes, will it be truly the free-form text search, or will it be a chat interface? And if consumers expect chat interface because that's how they search for everything or look for everything, then I'm sure the third-party sites also will respond to that, and everybody else too.
We were talking about this earlier. I was at the airport, and there were twice I heard this, and one was a 13-year-old kid around about that age, the other was 16, and it was about the plane being late. I'm just going to ask my AI.
Yeah.
It's just like, where did this happen? People are asking their AI now.
Totally. But there are different kinds of queries too, right? So if I'm trying to figure out how many feet are in inches, I mean, that's a different kind of a question.
Yeah, for sure.
Then
yeah.
what kind of a life partner would be right for me? So
Yeah.
some questions you don't want to be answered too
Yeah.
bluntly, too quickly.
I'll jump onto the second question.
Sure.
So we already are implementing AI into our business model. So we have a bunch of tools at the moment, but given the range of countries that we work in, we have to be very careful about what we use and the privacy, especially in Europe. So almost every aspect of AI is either built in-house or they are models which are hosted in-house. They are not learning models, and they don't have anything to do with the external world. So we're doing a lot. We just have so much data. We have, hundreds of millions of calls. We are building trends to see what happens. We're trying to figure out what predictive things can happen, but it's a very exciting time to have that much data, and a very exciting time to have the tools to be able to dig into that data, and to not have to do it manually is wonderful, right? So
Right.
having a machine do it is much better.
And for us, with AI, we've been obviously using AI-based approaches for a very long time. Nothing is public with the generative AI stuff. It's more of a proof of concept stage right now, but we're looking into all of those. Just going all the way back, we have a chat product creatively named Conversations, which uses AI, and we've been doing that for 5-6 years now. It was originally experimented with IBM Watson's platform, with Amazon's later, and that's more for helping consumers chat on a dealer website and get to the kind of information they're looking for. There's a comment about voice-based search for our dealer website platform. We had that. We launched it about 4 or 5 years ago, and that wasn't conversational voice search, but much more structured. So if you're on a search page and you're looking for cars and you said, show me the blue cars, it'll filter to just blue cars. So we had like a microphone, almost like an experiment.
Yeah.
But I think those kinds of interface changes would be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things which you can do just by voice. Like we have our restaurant booking group where you can phone up and talk to an automated voice, which is all automated. That's pretty easy because it's a
And in
lower
the US, I think for
footprint, right?
service appointments, that's an immediate category opportunity. Yeah.
You don't need a human to do some of that stuff, so
Right.
we should get rid of the humans as much as possible, I think. Point of friction.
Only for their dollars we need them. Somebody has to pay for it.
Well, that's kind of what we do is we look at a business and figure out how can we make, because we always want to make our customers more money because we make more money.
Yeah.
It's not that we're really, really nice. We like money as well.
It's
But-
funny, I certainly hope that cars.con was a typo, but that is the biggest risk. That is the business.
Security risk?
Trust is the risk, right?
Yeah.
Like if we allow unverified results to be presented. And I mean, we have a really strong editorial team. We've had it for 20 years now. We receive vehicles from OEMs before their release, and we do test drive. We provide our blunt critique of that. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why consumers trust us. They come and read about our reviews. So if you imagine we ingest all the editorial content from ears and we allow an AI chatbot to respond, and that recommendation to a consumer is something that our editor-in-chief would scoff at, then that's a big problem, right? So those are the kind of things that'll worry us. But I think for structured queries, like interpreting a consumer's intent, converting that into a structured query and providing listening response, that's a very, very viable thing, and that should have some benefit.
I think AI in general, with a caveat, is great. You can't say this is always going to be right. We're not there yet, but in terms of giving you a general gist, it's pretty good, but there are, as already been mentioned, hallucinations and various other weird issues happening. You got 7 seconds to answer the last question. 5.
Different types of, this is probably the most general question that reading the question itself would be 7 seconds. But I think the biggest tip I would have is not rest on your laurels. Keep looking for growth and what comes next. By the way, that's our tagline also for the new brand campaign that we launched this year as a part of 25th anniversary, Where to Next. So I think that's our mindset. We're always looking for next.
And work with innovative people like iovox?
I would not say where to next from iovox.
We are next. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.